currently what's happening is my browser automatically opens, then it scrolls through each page. It's automatically scrolling. Then it goes to another website. It scrolls. After taking all the screenshot, it analyzes everything. Then it creates a Word document. The news can be very personalized. For example, let's say you want to know what's happening in OpenAI by analyzing your social media feeds. You can do it easily with this app. So, our goal for today's session is to understand what are the components I have used to build this. Also, I'll be teaching OpenAI Assistants API. OpenAI Assistants API has four major components. We will try to understand each components in depth. So that's the goal for today's session. And if you got any questions, you can ask on our Slack channel. You don't have to follow the code with me. You can just try to watch what I'm doing and you can try to understand more in that way. You don't have to code. If you want to code, you can also copy paste each code cell and you can paste it on VS Code or any other. So I'll show you how to do that. If you see this is the code, you can just click this one. If you click this one, it's copied. Then you can paste this on any IDE. You can do that. Okay, let me start with this one. So to do this project, what are the components I have used is Selenium. So Selenium is a Python library that automatically controls your web browser. I'll show you some of the code. For now, if you know it automatically controls your browser, that's good enough because our main motive is to understand OpenAI Assistants API. Then this PDF, it's for converting PDF. Then Python Telegram bot because we are using a bot to send messages to your accounts. You can also read this. So I have imported some basic Selenium scripts. So you can see I have done two setup driver. One is normal setup driver and setup headless driver. So the difference is if you just use setup driver, it opens the browser and you can see what's happening in the browser. For example, if I play this in the beginning, you can see there is a browser, it's opened and it's controlled by the software. You can read it here. I cannot zoom here, but what's it's written is Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. So you can see the Chrome here. This is called normal head. And headless mean you won't see a browser open on your computer, but whatever happens in the browser, it automatically happens in the backend. So that's what happening when you do headless. So there are two functions, setup driver, setup headless driver. So this can be useful if you are running this code on Google Colab. So in Google Colab, you cannot see a Chrome browser, but with this, it's still happening. If it still install the Chrome and it opens the Chrome programmatically and it reads everything. You don't have to see it, but it's happening. So there are two functions. And this is important, load and add cookies. So what's happening is each social media account has some cookies. The cookies has some login details. With that, we can log in to our account. For example, to do that, I used a cookie called edit this cookie. This is the one, edit this cookie. And here, this is my website. To download all the cookies from this website, I can go here and you can click this one. This is input. And this cookies is copied. Then you can paste it on any file and you can save it. So those cookie will have all the access details. So if you see the video, zoom and pause a little bit. So currently, this is, let me show you one more time. Okay, you will see it's like it's directly going to my account, but it's not like that. It just goes to the twitter.com. Then by using my cookie, it logins to my account automatically. So this function, it loads the cookies and it logins. So that's what load and add cookies mean. Then capture scroll screenshots. So let's say you want to scroll the website like 5 times. You can say number 5, number of screenshots 5. And with that, it scrolls the website and captures the screenshot. So you can see driver save screenshot. Okay. So once that's done, I have written one more function, get content. So here, sometimes I use headless driver. If I'm using the code in Collab, I do this. If I'm running everything on my local computer, I do setup driver because it's nice to see what's happening. So I do setup driver. Then here I have added 5 websites: Twitter, Reddit, OpenAI, GitHub, Hacker News. So here I use the cookies to log into my account. And for some other websites like GitHub and OpenAI, there is no cookies, which means it's not personalized. Whatever you are saying, everyone can see the same. But on Reddit and Twitter, the whatever you are saying, only you can see it because it's your account. So to do that, I used cookies. And the important thing is don't share cookies online because it has your account information. So you can just store this on your local computer. I didn't share my cookies. I just shared the remaining code. So after loading all the cookies, we capture the screenshots by capturing like 5 times. You can add numbers like 5, or for some websites, I used 1, some websites, I used 3. Then what's happening here is it downloads all the screenshots to each folder. So you can see some screenshot prefix. So this could be like a naming the file. So it saves everything there. You can also read this and understand what's happening. Okay. So this is my screenshots folder. Screenshots. In my screenshots folder, I have a lot of files. If the file is Reddit, it starts with Reddit screenshot. Or if the files are GitHub, it starts with GitHub screenshot. So in this way, I combined all the files. So I will tell you some personal experience here. So there are few ways to extract information from an image. So let's say you want to use some model to extract information, you can do it. So I initially started with OpenAI image model, OpenAI image model, as well as I used Gemini Pro Vision. In both of the vision based models, it didn't work great. The reason is when your account has any human picture, the model will say, this picture has human, we won't process it. So it's completely useless if you are using for social media post, something like that. So I could not use OpenAI or Gemini for this purpose. What I did is I used Tesseract, which is a Python library. With this, you can extract all the text from images. That's what's pretty well. So you can see this is one of the screenshot, OpenAI file screenshot. And this is the test text I retrieved from the image. You can see it here. So this is good enough because we are using powerful models like GPT-4. Those models are capable of extracting and cleaning all the information from documents like this. Okay, let me quickly check the Slack. Yes, it fails if screenshots does not exist. You have to create a folder screenshots. Good point, Tim. So extract text from images. So this is my folder name, screenshots. So this function takes all the files, then it loads the image, and then it passes the image to Tesseract library. Then I will get some text. Then I'm storing the text in somewhere. So this function does that. Then combine text from sources. So what this one does is it takes all the sources like Twitter files, Reddit files, OpenAI files, GitHub files, Hacker News files. Then it loads all the text one by one. Then it combines everything and it returns a big giant text. I have displayed first 1,000 characters. Okay, this is combined text. So this combined text has all the information of all the social media and few other websites information. So far what we have done is we have created, let me show you, this is the main part. What we have done is we have mentioned a few websites, and if you want to log in, you used cookies. To use cookies, you can use this plugin, edit this cookie. Then with that, you can log into your account and all the information will be very personalized. Then after a login, we take screenshots. Then we save the screenshots in screenshots folder. Then once that's done, we use Tesseract library. When we read information one by one from the image, then we combine everything and all the combined text in combined text variable. Here I just displayed first 1,000 characters. Before moving to the prompt, let's check here. Yeah, sometimes if you try to install something, if it's not working, you can install the library if it's not there already. Thanks, Tim. You can also watch our Slack to see installation and other support. Now let's move into the prompt. The prompt is, I have asked the model to create in this style, like headline creation, article structure, language and style, content segmentation, anonymity and privacy, enhanced narration, and objective. So I also asked it to not to miss any important details, as information can be at the end of the article too. I asked it to write 1,500 to 2,000 words. You can read this. I also created one more prompt. I found this prompt worked really well because my main focus is to find interesting projects. It analyzes all my social media, and if someone shared some interesting projects, my news will be very curated, focusing on interesting projects. So like this, you can also create some own prompt based on interest. So this is the important part, that this is focusing more on OpenAI Assistants library. So we will learn some technical things. So first of all, I use load.environment file, like .environment library. It's a good practice to keep all your API key in this file, .environment file. I will show you how to create that one. So the .environment file looks like this. You can just create a file in the name .env. Then here you can add your keys like this: open weather API key, some key, then OpenAI API key, some key. Like you can add in this structure. Then you can save this file. Then you can keep the file in the same folder as your code sits. So here I am getting the OpenAI as API key from os.getEnvironment. Once this is done, I add the key to OpenAI.API key. My key is here. Then I am creating a client, OpenAI. Okay. Then make sure the path to Tesseract executable works, managed PCs. Sometimes don't enable sometimes that happens as well. You can Google it, or you can also ask questions here. So here I created a response by using chat completion, client.chat.completions create. I use the model GPT-4 1106 preview. Recently, OpenAI launched one more model, which is GPT-4 Turbo Preview, which is a recent model. You don't have to change this model every time. You can use the same model name. Whenever they update, the updated model will be in that name, GPT-4 Turbo Preview. That's the recent model they used. Or you can also use this one, GPT-4 1106 Preview. They launched this 3 months ago. And in messages, we always start with system prompt. It's good practice to use system prompt. In the system prompt, you tell what's happening, what's your goal, everything. Then you have a user prompt. In the user prompt, you pass all your news details. Then you will get some response. To display the response, you can use ipython.display markdown and display. So here, you usually get a markdown response, which means in your response you have something like hash and then some heading. If it's hash with some heading, if you use markdown and display, that displays everything very neatly, as you can see it here. And your response has choices. The first choice has message, and which has a content, and I'm displaying the content. So this is the response I'm getting from the news, which is very personalized. I can see some interesting projects mentioned. When I tried this one, they launched GPT Store and custom GPTs, and they also enhanced the performance of Whisper model, which is their speech to text model. Then few other innovations happened, and I've been using some OpenAI and Reddit community post, so you can see some community reactions, which is interesting. And you get all the content as a news content. So this is my news content. So this news content has all this information. So this is one part which is very easy. You just collect information using a few libraries like Selenium. The Selenium opens your web browser and it takes a screenshot. Then you use Tesseract to convert the screenshot to text. Once you got the text, you just pass it to OpenAI chat conversation models and you get the response. And if you display the response, that's really good enough. So this is the first main important thing. Then we will look into other components like creating text to speech. Before that, let's quickly check. So Leo says he got around it by installing Tesseract in your project directory, not needing the path then. Like, yes, this is the recent model, GPT-4 Turbo Preview. If you use this model, whenever they upload the model, that automatically uses the recent one. Otherwise, you can also use GPT-4 1106 Preview, which is 3 months old. So yeah, it doesn't matter too much. But if you use this one, you don't have to change the model name in future. Okay, he says he needs to add some money. Yes, that's true. You have to link your card details there to use the models. Even that's true for GPT 3.5. You have to add your card and add some credit there. Yes, to use OpenAI API key, you have to use platform.openai.com, which is different to chat.openai.com. This is ChatGPT, and this is your this one. So here you can go to settings and you can go to billing. You can just add your credit card and you can top up like $5 and so that you can run their models. You can also use a lot of free models. I've been also playing with a lot of free models, but for this task, I found GPT-4 Turbo or GPT-4 model worked really well, which is little bit more advanced compared to a lot of other open source models. But I feel like before end of this year, most of the other models will catch up and up to the speed of GPT-4. Okay. So far, what we have done is we have created a detailed response and we stored the response in news content. Now I have written one more function to convert the text to speech. So here, text content is news content. I used client OpenAI. Then I truncated the news to 4096 characters, which is enough for most of the data, like 5 minutes or 10 minutes news, which is enough. This is not needed, but I made sure that I don't exceed their character limit. So audio.speech.create, it has some character limit. At most, you can use only 4096 characters. So that's why I added this explicitly. And they have few voices. I used Alloy. You can also play with few other voices. Then you can pass a truncated text. Then you can mention some file name in the input and you save the file. So far, what we have done is we have taken a lot of news and we created the news, curated news. Then we created an audio file. So now what we are going to do is we are going to create a bot and we are going to send messages to Telegram. So since the goal of this session is mostly focusing on OpenAI Assistants API, I'm not going to go in depth on this Telegram bot because to create the Telegram bot, you need bot token and chat ID. You can Google how to create that one. That takes 10-15 minutes. They will, on your Telegram, you have to do a few settings to find bot token and chat ID. Once you got those information, you can pass it directly to the code. Or if you are interested, you can also see how you can send this to WhatsApp. That's a different way of doing. I found Telegram's the easiest, so I quickly used, and it's free. So I quickly created a Telegram bot by creating the bot token and chat ID. You can figure it out this yourself. So once you know the bot ID, you can create a bot by passing the bot token. Then to send audio file, this bot has a few functions. Send audio. With send audio, you can pass the chat ID and audio file, send then some title. So this will send the audio file to your Telegram account. Then to send PDF, there is another function called send document. With send document, you can pass your chat ID and PDF file details. Then you will receive a PDF file. Or It could be, you can also send a docx file, document file, Excel file, anything you can send with send document function. So this I have written a few other function, send file, and then send telegram audio, send telegram document. So here in send telegram document, I use the token and chat ID. Then I am calling this file, send file, async run, because I don't want to wait until this is done. So that's why I used async IO library. So with the async IO library, you can just run this. You don't have to wait for the response, and you can move on to the next ones. So this is like a just optimized one. Copy paste this one, and it should work. If you face any installation issue, you can install like pip install async IO and pip install AIO HTTP. Okay, it says it's deprecated. Maybe they deprecated recently, but when I used, it was working fine. I just did this like last month. Maybe Tim, if you can pass the details to use the new one without the deprecation issue. I'm reading a comment. Can you not use open source LLMs instead of OpenAI one? We can use OpenAI models. We can use other models. It's absolutely okay for the first part. Since I needed some highest accuracy, I just went with GPT-4 Turbo models because it's a little bit cheaper compared to GPT-4, and I'm getting decent results. I also explored with few open source model. I didn't get decent result because my input text size is huge, so that didn't work well. Otherwise, I would have gone with some open source models, which is absolutely free and it's easy to use. But for this one, I just went with OpenAI models. Also, in the next section, I'm going to teach you that OpenAI Assistants API. So to do that, we need OpenAI account and their paid models. So that's why I used OpenAI ones. So this is, I was talking about that I am building this on X, and a few people commented, can you retrieve the links to certain bullet point if you wish to go back and read it? Do you have it public on Git? So what's happening is, if you see our news documents, it just says the news. There is a no link. It doesn't provide any news link where you can click and read more. So this is the one she asked. So for that one, he used a library called DuckGo Search. This DuckDuckGo Search is open source and it's free. So here you just first of all you have to pip install DuckDuckGo Search. Once you pip install, you can mention some keywords like ChatGPT military ban. It happened when I was creating this document. I searched. This means it's worldwide. We are not restricting some regions. We are just using everywhere. And I'm getting some response. I used top 20, maximum 20. And this is the first response. In the first response, you can see, yeah, MSN News, which is really good. So what I did is I have created a function DuckDuckGo search. Then in this function, I pass some keyword. Then based on the keyword, I get the news link. Okay, so this is pretty easy and straightforward, and it's all free. You can just pip install. Then you pass some keywords, you get some response. So now we are going to focus more on OpenAI Assistants API, which is very interesting. Give me a second. So I'm going to talk about what is agent, what is OpenAI Assistants API. Let's start with that. So you might heard this term AI assistants. Let me write it. Also, you might have heard this term LLM agents. So it looks like these terms are a little bit complicated, but what's happening is very simple. In agents means it has some model. So this is agent, and agent has some model. The model could be GPT-4 Turbo preview, and it can access some tools. The tools could be files, external files. It could be code interpreter, which means it can run some code, execute, and get the response and use it. Or it could be some other external functions. For example, in our project, we used a function called this one. By using the keywords, you get the news URL. This is a function. This is also like a tool. So this agent has access to a model, and it also has access to a lot of tools. With this, it runs the tool get the response, and it uses the response to answer better. So it makes the entire ecosystem very powerful compared to a large language model alone. So if we go through chat completion model, sorry, I think I changed my pen. So if you go to chat completion model, which it has just a models, it has only the model. There is no memory attached to it. There is no tools. There are no files, nothing. It's just a model. In that model, you pass some request and you get some response, which means you send some prompt and you get some response. So that's it, the large language model. But agent has a model, as well as it has a lot of other tools like files, code interpreter, functions, and it also has memory, which means it will remember all the previous conversations. So that makes the agent very powerful compared to just a model. So that's the main difference. And in large language models, agents are also called assistants. OpenAI Assistants API is useful to create AI assistants or AI agents. Both are same. So before talking about OpenAI Assistants API, let's quickly check Slack. You can use with streaming response dot method. It's just deprecated. It should work for now. In future, maybe I can update that part of the code. I didn't see that. Thanks, Tim. So now what we are going to do is we are going to learn OpenAI Assistants API. Especially, we are going to focus more on function calling because we have created a function. The functions we have created are export audio, send Telegram audio, send Telegram document, get DuckDuckGo news URLs. So these are the functions we have created. And I'm going to use that function in our assistant. To do that, I need to convert the real function to JSON format. So now we are learning about function calling. In function calling, we just define the function. Give me a second. Okay. So we define the function, which is I have defined all the functions previously, which is a real function. Then we then we convert the functions to JSON. You are seeing it here. I will tell you how to convert that. So then we pass the JSON details to the assistants. So the assistants know about each and every function, what are the input parameters and what will be the output. It knows everything. Then assistants ask us to call a function with input details. So if the assistant has large language model, then it also has a lot of other tools. So it knows what function to call. It won't call the function automatically. It just give you some input to call the function yourself. You will call the function yourself. You will get some response. Then you pass the response to the model, which means assistant. Cool. So how to convert a real function to JSON is you create a type as function. Then in the function, you have some name. In my case, I use the same as function name, get dg underscore news underscore URLs. Then I have added some description. The description is it searches for news on DuckDuckGo and returns a list of URLs. So this is the description of my function. The parameters are, which is type object, and in properties, we have only keywords. It has only one parameter, which is just keywords. And what keywords is, it's a string, and description is search keywords. And this is required. So keywords, we need keywords to get some response. So this is not option, which is required. So that's why required equal to is just keywords. So this is the JSON structure for the function we have created. Similarly, I converted all my previous function to JSON structure. So I didn't do this manually. What I did is I have copied my original function. Then I did for only this one. Then I asked ChatGPT to come up with the remaining things. Then I just pasted here. It worked. Yeah, but the name is misleading. It waits until the whole audio has been created. Okay. Good one, Tim. Thanks. Okay. So we have created all the functions. Then I have created a dictionary called available functions. In available functions, I have the name, some name, and this is the real function. Get DDG news underscore URLs, send Telegram document, send Telegram audio, and export audio. These are the function names, not JSON names, the real function names. Then in the tools, as I told you before, OpenAI Assistants API can access some tools. These are the tools we are providing. One is text to speech JSON, Telegram audio JSON, Telegram document JSON, and DuckDuckGo search JSON. And we are adding one more tool called code interpreter. So this code interpreter is useful to execute some code and use the response for us. So OpenAI will execute the code automatically behind the scene. It does everything on their server. Then it returns something. We can get the return object and we can use ourselves. So this is my assistant instructions. So you are a news assistant tasked with creating Word document, and I asked it to use the names news.mp3, news.docx. For creating Word document, use code interpreter because I don't want to write code myself to create a Word document from the text. I asked code interpreter to do that. Then I asked code interpreter to include all the details from the news along with their URLs. Then to use the URLs, the OpenAI will call the functions and it uses the response. So you can also read this carefully. Then here what I'm doing is I'm going to create an assistant. To create an assistant, maybe let's go here. To create an assistant, I'm using client.beta.assistants create. Then assistants has descriptions, instructions, name, tools, and model. Here you can use GPT-4 Turbo Preview to access the recent models. So this is our news assistant. You can see assistant has some response. It has ID. Then you can see when it is created, then description and few other metadata. We can also attach some files to assistant. Then I have written one more lengthy function, run assistant, because assistants does not run everything automatically. Maybe let me show you this one. So far what we have done is we have created an assistant, and in that assistant, let me see. Okay. We have used some functions, then we used code interpreter, then used some models. So that's all we created. We just created an assistant. Now we will focus more on how to run an assistant. Okay. So we created an assistant. Also, we are going to ask some questions. So this is my question. So after creating an assistant, you create a thread. Thread is like a window. It looks like this. In that window, you will have all your questions. Let's say you are asking some question. Your question will be here, and assistant response will also in the same thread. Then you can ask one more question. Then assistant will respond a few other things. It all happens in the thread. Okay, thread is like a container. In that container, if you ask some question to the assistant, it goes to the thread. And when assistant replies something, it also goes through that thread. Okay. So OpenAI recommends creating one thread per user as soon as they start to use your product. Because with thread, you don't have to worry about managing the memory. It truncates the entire previous history and it uses whenever you ask some question. So it has some memory in it. So it's all easy for now. But the downside is it's a bit expensive because sometimes if you're chatting a lot, it uses all the previous messages to answer the next question. So there is no size limit. The context window is managed automatically by OpenAI. But the downside is there is some cost involved in it. You can also monitor those costs, everything on OpenAI accounts. Okay. Once you create a thread, then you can create some message and you can attach the message to the thread. So in messages, you can have text. You can also have some files. Once you create a message, you add the message to the thread. Then you can list all the messages in a thread. You will get the reverse chronological order, which means most recent is the first zeroth index. So zeroth index is the most recent one. But in chat completion, it's a bit opposite. So once you create a thread and once you create a message, you won't get any response unless you run the message. To run the message, maybe let's go through some code first and then we will come back to the run. So I will try to help you understand thread and messages first. Once it's clear, we will try to learn runs. So I have created some function. We will come back to this function in a second. Let's go here. I have created a thread. To create a thread, you use client.beta.threads.create, which is just a empty thread, which is a container. Then you have some message. So this is just a news I created for some testing. So here I'm creating a message. The message is you pass some thread ID. You are asking a message. So it's user. Your message is for the following news content. Find all keywords for each news chunk. Then find URL. Each news content has 10 to 15 news chunks. So the search term should be 10 to 15 too. For first task, only find all the URLs. Do not do anything else. And I provided some news short. Then the news content. So this is like a few short learning. So what I'm doing is I'm teaching the model to how to take a news and how to find the search term. So I'm giving some examples. So this is called few short, which is very helpful in prompt tuning. So here what I'm doing is, so this is a news and the output should be GPT store. And designer GPT takes the lead and this is the news. And this search term is designer GPT OpenAI. So I created some examples. Then I'm using, this is the example and this is the original news content. With this, you will come up with some search term. Then you will use the function calling functionality to call the function to get some news article. So messages, run assistant. Here you pass your assistant's ID and you pass thread ID. So let's go here. So this is a big function. I'll try to explain this as much as I can. I also created a few short videos built with OpenAI Assistants API and threads in OpenAI Assistants API. This also very helpful and relevant to this example. So here, what we are doing is we are creating a run. So as I said before, we have created an assistant, then we created a thread, then we also created a message. To run a message, what we have to do is we have to create a run. This run has some thread ID, assistant ID. This thread ID has our recent message. So with that, it will run. So this run is asynchronous. Now we can read here. So let's read one by one. Assistant reads the thread and decide whether to use any tools or just model. Then it appends messages to the thread with role. Assistant will automatically decide what previous messages to include as a context to the new model. Okay. So this run status, runs are asynchronous, which means when you create a run, it goes to queued object. Then it's in progress. Then let's say the assistant asking you to call some functions. In that case, your action will be request action. Okay. These are important ones. There are a few others like expired, cancelled, and failed. So mostly you will see completed, in progress, and request action. Okay. So we have created a run. Since run is asynchronous, it will go to the next code. And in the next code, we are constantly checking if the run is in queue or in progress. If it's in queued or in progress, we retrieve the run. Then we check the status. Then we sleep for 5 seconds. Then finally, let's say if the run is in request action, which means it's asking us to call a function. To call a function, the call will be here, run.recordAction.submit tools outputs.tool calls. So if you go to this object, you will get each call. Then to get the function name, you can use call.function.name. That's a function name. Then to get the real function, you can use available function dictionary that we created previously. There you pass the name and you will get the real function. Then to get the arguments all given by the large language model itself. It will just tell you, please call this function with this argument and get some response and pass the response to me. So that's all it says. So now what it says is we get some output here, right? Because we are calling the function with the arguments. The arguments are here. We get some response. Then what we are doing is we are creating a dictionary. In that dictionary, we call some tool ID. Each function call has some ID. We should use that ID. Then you will get some output, which is in JSON.dumps output. Then we append all the each function call output here, tool outputs. Then finally, once this is done, we create one more run, client.beta.threads.runs, submit tool outputs. In that tool outputs, what we are saying is for this thread ID, for this run ID, we have called all the functions, and this is our response. Okay. So once it gets the response, it processes the response, then it answers your question. So once the while loop is done, you will come into status completed. Once it's completed, what you can do is you cannot get the messages from runs. What you can do is you have to go through the threads. You have to list all the message by thread ID. Then you will get the message. Then you take the first message. The first message is the recent message that comes from the assistant. Then you display the results. Okay, this is our first message. And you will see in progress after 15 seconds, it says requires action. Then what it says is it's calling a function. Now calling function, this one. This is DuckDuckGo search with keywords whisper, OpenAI, speculative, decoding. With this keyword, you will get some URL. Then it takes a URL and store it somewhere. Similarly, it searches each news chunk. You can see different search term. It searches everything. Then it finds a link. Then it responds like this. Whisper, OpenAI, speculative decoding. If you click this, you will see the news. Speculative decoding. What is it? Oh, this is not super good. This one. Yeah. Oh, with OpenAI GPT store, emitment apps are already being ripped off by copycats. Cool. So similarly, you get the news response. So here, so far, you got a news and you got all the URLs. Then I'm creating one more assistant to create a Word document, which is same as previous one. This is my personal experience. In my personal experience, what happened is I used the same assistant that we created previously to create a Word document. It didn't work really great. The reason is it has some set of instructions, and when we ask it to do more, it mess up. So what I did is I created one more completely a new assistant. In that new assistant, I didn't attach all our previous functions. I just attached only code interpreter, and I'm setting some clear instructions for this assistant. Since thread is very independent, you can attach the same thread to any number of assistants, which is very interesting. So this is very important. I utilized that concept. I created a new assistant. Then I created a new message. In my new message, I didn't create a new thread. I used the same thread as previous one because previous thread has all the history of information. Then to create a Word document, it took a lot of time. Each in progress is like 5 seconds. After some time, it completed. Then the document is saved, news.doc. Then I have written one more function to get the response from the OpenAI. Since this document is saved on OpenAI, you can get the response by messages.data 0, content 0. This file ID has file ID. Then you can retrieve the file ID by openai.files.content, some file ID. You will get the file data. Then you can read the data and you can write the data. So this is my final response. In that response, you can see each news item and you will see some read more. Then I created one more message, send Telegram message. For this one, I used my first assistant because we attached all the functions related to sending messages. So I used my first assistant, not the Word document assistant. And finally, after a few seconds, you can see it's in progress. Then requires action. Requires action means it's calling this function, send Telegram audio with this file name and send Telegram raw document with this file name. Then after a few seconds, I received this message on my I can click and play, and I can also read the news. I hope this is very helpful. You can also go through this blog post and try to understand more. And you can also watch the video one more time and try to understand a little bit deeper. And finally, you can also watch these two videos. You can try to execute everything. If you are facing any issue, it could be like installation issue, like Tesseract library and few other libraries. You can just Google it and do pip install. I hope this is helpful. Thanks everyone. See you all next week. Bye.